So hello everyone, welcome back to day 3 of CTM Festival's Discourse program. It's nice to see so many of you here today. And it's going to be a really sound and music filled day today with short performances and discussions with the artistic fellows of our Resynthesising the Traditional artistic lab. This is still a really new initiative. We started it last year with Stas, Shärifullá, who you'll hear from in a minute. And it centers a lot around questions that we had and we felt a lot of artists had of how do we work with traditions in a meaningful way? How can we stay critical towards them, not see them as something really fixed and conserved and that cannot be touched? And how this work might also be really dependent on where you're based and what your current situation is, and so on. And so today we'll be having these short performances from the fellows, which Stas and Yara will introduce in a moment. And I'd also like to say that on the festival closing day on Sunday, we'll hear again from the fellows, but more in an intimate discussion format, which will kind of be a way to unravel what were the discussions of the week, some of the questions, the difficulties, maybe some discoveries, I don't know. And that day will be supported by a lecture from Anuardu Senbinov, who will be investigating some of these larger questions of working with traditions, but from his own artistic practice that is rooted in Kazakh culture. So yeah, Stas and Yara, maybe you'd like to say something.
This is going to be the third edition already of the lab. The first one I had last year in Berlin. The second one we had in Almaty in Kazakhstan with two fantastic co-curators from Kazakhstan who are also there with us, Madina Sedebek and Anwar Senbinov. And just in general, just for a few words, it started as more like a thought experiment of like, yeah, whatever. So me and Taïca, we are interested in this topic, both like musically, artistically, and from a research point, I'm currently working on a PhD thesis in the University of Basel. I'm based in Basel, working with like musical culture of Central North Asia, but also more on how the traditions were created in the first place, how they were used socio-politically, so how, for example, the nation building or the ideas of nationalism are also divided through the traditions and what are they. So not really interested in all this, you know, folk music, world music bullshit, like, or folktronica bullshit, and people, you know, wearing all these clothes like dancing on stage. I mean, no beef with them, it's just not the point of my interest. But more like why these songs were created at the first place. So, for example, for our culture, it's very important that most of the indigenous songs, they were used as history, they were used as law, they had a really important social meaning that's been lost with the colonization and so on. So these are all the topics. So me as a media scientist, as a media scholar, for me it's very important how the technologies are being used, the technologies of audio capture, the technologies of instruments that are used to play music with and stuff like that. And so we decided to give it a go for the first year, last year, and then we decided like, we thought, so we have 6 places in the lab. It might be a bit of a niche thing, right? So like traditional, whatever it is. We also found a very nerdy name that refers to resynthesizing as a computer music technique. But now it evolved with some of the academics we work with, it evolved into this sort of diagonal dialectic or whatever. Sorry, I'm not going to go into the nerdy details. So, we thought like, okay, so we have these 6 places for 6 participants, so maybe hopefully we'll get around like 50, like inshallah, 60, 70 implications. So let's see if it works. Then we got the first year 260. It was really painful to select like the final 6, which turned into the final 8. And we were like, okay, so maybe it was the first year. A lot of hype, a lot of people wanted to apply. Then for this edition, we received 402 applications. That was just so painful. Right, it was impossible to choose. So, and then in this impossibility, we found ourselves picking 7 fantastic participants. Unfortunately, due to some reasons, political reasons, 2 of them cannot be there physically with us. Saba, Alizadeh, fantastic musician from Iran, had some issues you will hear about later. He will participate, let's say, in the ether anyway with us, showing his video. Bint Mbarek, fantastic artist from Palestine, could not sort, unfortunately, her visa issues, which is also kind of understandable in what's happening at the moment. So yeah, but nevertheless, we have 5 fantastic participants that are going to present today for all of us. We will introduce them gradually, and I guess who I also need to introduce is the co-host for the lab. Is a fantastic person, so we decided that we will bring one of the co-hosts, should whether be a person who already participated in the lab. So in Almaty, we invited 2 guys from the Berlin edition, how does it say, alumni, is there such a word, alumni, yes. The Berlin alumni, one Bilava Derispati from Indonesia, Medina Basarkhali from Kazakhstan. And then we decided we want to find some people also here in Berlin, because for us it's important. I mean, I'm not based here, but I still think it's culturally a very rich space. And who also, let's say, represent the whole idea of what is it to work with tradition from a critical angle. First of all, from the critical angle. And then, like, how do we go forward? What do we do with it? What do we bring back to the communities? How not to be extractive also, which is one of the most important questions. And I'm super happy that we have an opportunity for us to work together with the fantastic musicians, sound artist, best person in the world, from Misr, from Egypt, from Cairo, Yara Mekawei, who will tell a little bit something.
Thank you, Habibi. Thank you so much, Tasia. Thank you so much, Stas. Thanks for coming. I will not that much add, as long as they speak totally wonderful introduction about the lab. I'm Yara Mekawei. I'm a composer and sonic sculpture performer from Cairo, based in Berlin. I'm really honored to be here co-hosting the lab with Stas and Tasia. It's not my first collaboration with CTM. I did before, which is also like continue in the future. Thanks for coming, and I hope you enjoying the transition that we ask for the participants to do the traditional music in this week from the past, present to the future. So thanks for coming, and please enjoy the performance with the participants.
I'll just quickly add a few words. Now we're going to hear performances by 2 of our participants. So first is going to join us Dorothy Carlos from the US, from Chicago, who is working with electric cello. Then we will have a performance from Miłosz Kędra from Poznan, from Poland, and one just small thing. We will have a Q&A after the small performances. All the performances are very short, so it's like around 15 minutes. It's not like a proper performance in a way, so just to lower your expectations a little bit. So we decided that we want participants to tell about themselves, not only using words, you know, I'm from there, I work on the intersection of this and that, but also through their music, which just makes sense, a lot of sense. So this is for you, for all of you, thank you for coming. It's like a sneak peek into the lab of what we're doing and into the world of these beautiful musicians. So Dorothy Carlos and then Miłosz Kędra. Thank you.
So as the third input for this section, before we invite Dorothy and Miłosz back on stage for a conversation, we have a short message from Saba, Alizadeh, who was unfortunately unable to attend. I will read his message right now. In light of the recent devastating events in Iran and the personal loss of a family member, I regret that I do not presently have the emotional or physical capacity to join CTM's wonderful community. I apologize for any inconvenience this may cause. We're looking forward to meeting Saba another time and connecting with him definitely. Saba has shared with us a short work titled Nafir, Clamour, which he created in March 2023 as an attempt to metaphorically depict life in Iran during the Women, Life, Freedom protest movement, which still very much applies to the events that are unfolding in Iran today. Thank you very much, Dorothy and Miłosz, for your performances just now. I'll read just a tiny bit of biographical info of each of you, and then we can get into some questions. So we first heard from Dorothy Carlos, who is currently based in Chicago and employs electronics and a wide spectrum of extended techniques to push the cello beyond the confines of the classical music tradition. Miłosz Kędra's practice is deeply rooted in ritual, structure, and sensibility that stems from a conservative Catholic upbringing, often finding it difficult to express aspects of their experience through art. They're interested in expanding the imagination around practices of queering. Actually, maybe just do a check if anyone maybe immediately has a question for Miłosz or Dorothy or both. Okay. Would you like to start, Yara, or should I?
Yeah, actually, I can start. First of all, thank you for a really amazing performance, even if it's quite shorter. But I would like to start with Miłosz. Could you tell us more about the organ story with the electronics composition that you had?
Yes, so for this, it was an improvised set. The pipes that I use come from a music school that the school was about to throw them out because the church is owning the building, so they threw the school out in Poznań, Poland. And the school decided to throw the whole instrument, so I grabbed the pipes with my friend and traveled to my house from the school 10 times to grab all the pipes and bring them to my house. As you can imagine, my house is full of organ pipes. They live under the tables. I just coexist with them in this space with me and my partner and two of my cats and the pipes. So yeah, yes, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to implement the electronics, but also process the organ pipes so they do not, in my mind, and I do hope in others, do not sound so sacral and sound like an objects, and you can hear the materials and see beyond what's what you see in the church looking up and to this big instrument. I wanted to be a small small material that you can touch, and through sound you can touch it and hear it. Yeah.
Another question. I believe that if like each one of us have like a different presentation of the instruments or even the sound they're using. So could you tell us more about why organ and what it's presenting with organ based on your personality and your history?
Yes, I chose the organ because when I was really young, I was going to churches with my parents. I don't know if you know that, but Poland is very conservative and Catholic. I was going with my parents to church every Sunday, and then I was also going to those colonies from the church, and I never really heard the organ. It was part of the sacral space for me so much that I don't remember how it sounded when I was young. I remember that I was crying and I wanted to get out of the place, but yeah, but I don't really remember the sound. And first time I heard the organ was like 5 years ago when my friends showed me the small church south of Poznań. It was this little church with this little instrument, and I was there alone with her. She was singing and I was playing the organ, and I feel like it was the first time that I ever heard the organ, because for the first time it was coming out of my hands. I was able to hear the breathing and touch the keys, and it was really beautiful experience. But then I was not able to play it ever again. Besides that There was one church that I also played in, but the rest of it, it was always some problem that I couldn't get into the church. I don't know, I was playing also at my Academy of Music in Poznań where I study. And I also was not able to play there. I was told that, what am I doing? Am I detuning the instrument while I was just, you know, in organ you have those voices that in mechanical organ you can slightly tune them, retune them, and open the voices. And I was doing that, and the priest came into the classroom and was like, "What am I doing with this instrument?" So yeah, I was on a journey of, you know, creating my own, and that's why I also have a bigger organ instrument that I built and the one with valves. And today I prepared only the organ pipes to focus on the material and the processing.
Thank you. Could you?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was really struck how in both of your performances, texture is really important. And there was definitely some overlap, and then definitely you went each into different places. And especially Dorothy, even in your application, this was really one of the words that stood out. And maybe you could say something about if texture is what attracted you to cello in the first place, or if that's more the driver of your journey now into how you're really trying to extend the instrument.
Yeah, honestly, in the first place, I just picked it because I thought it looked very cool. But yeah, I think like texture, well, I don't know. I think for me, the interesting thing about texture and sounds is like, I don't know. I feel like I am kind of naturally attracted to like these kinds of like more sound effecty sounds because I think to me they're a bit more playful. And yeah, I think like it can be hard to like bring a very like classical instrument into that realm sometimes. And so I think like, yeah, I'm interested in these like more sound effects because yeah, I don't know. I think like the emotional quality of them is like interesting in comparison to the more traditional ways of like playing an instrument.
So getting away from this kind of clean tone that's often prioritized in classical music.
Yeah,
example,
definitely. Yeah.
And you were also interested in pulling or exploring certain other musics that surround you. For instance, you mentioned Appalachian music, which to my ear, I definitely could hear little elements of that. But maybe there's other musics that are currently influencing you or that you're interested in kind of incorporating into your performance.
Yeah, definitely. My first experience being trained formally in music was as a fiddler. I'm from North Carolina, which is in the southern part of the United States, and so a lot of what you were saying, Miłosz, about yeah, being interested in like conservative culture, but also has like other elements that are more beautiful and artistic, really resonated with me. And so like with fiddle music, there are, yeah, kind of similarly like extended techniques, like you can play close to the bridge and you get like a very like metallic, icy sound. And yeah, I think just like having that initial experience with like improvising on an instrument and then going to a more classical realm, I think like yeah, I don't know. Like I think like improvising again feels like comfortable for some reason, like because of that. But I'm also inspired by other electronic music as well. In the city that I'm from, Chicago, there's a big electronic music scene. Dance music has historically been very important in Chicago. So I think like I find myself often playing not in a classical context, but in an electronic music context the most. And yeah, there's also a big industrial scene in Chicago as well. And so I think like taking from like the more textural, like a sound effecty part of industrial music, yeah, is like a big element of my work as well.
I'm curious if for either of you there's a role of either narration or stories or text, because for example in Appalachian music this is really related to song, or then also in church hymns, for example, and their context. Yeah, if words or narration at all have any have any kind of place in what you're currently exploring.
I think like more so like the obscuring text is important. Sometimes I'll sing and process it in a similar way that you heard today. And so I think like in making text illegible, it makes it like kind of like more personal to me because I know what I'm saying, but the audience doesn't know what I'm saying. And so I think that's interesting.
In my case, I worked with choir actually. I sang in choir, and I also prepared a composition for choir, but it was a graphic score, and yeah, I really think about the pipes also as in those individual voices, and like even when I play with the individual ones, like today, I really see them as this, separate instruments. Whereas where we are in this big church and we look at this big organ that has 72,000 pipes or like more, it's hard to look at it that way. It's just a big organ, and here I can work with those just small pipes that are really cute.
And I bet the cats like them as toys. Just a little check if anyone has a question. Right?
Thank you. I will give it back. So I have a question for Dorothy. Usually when we speak or we think about tradition, it always what first comes to mind. It's some folk traditions or something that used with to old ancient music or something like that. And in some contexts, for example, in post-Soviet or for me from the North Caucasian context, academic music or classical music, it's something that opposite to tradition. So it's tradition, it's something rural and primitive, and classical music, it's something very progressive and civilized. And it's very interesting that you, this is my question, how you choose the classical instrument and classical music to work with this context and the context of this laboratory.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess I think like the technicality itself is like not super present. I guess like in my mind. But I think like it also my interest in placing it in this context specifically comes from my my studies as an anthropologist, and so I think like even though I don't necessarily see them as like super related, like my anthropological interests and my my work as a musician, I think like yeah, I feel like it's like interesting to kind of like orient the work that I make within culture, I guess.
Anyone else? Yeah, another question.
I had a question for Miłosz about this sort of conundrum of desacralization. I know that like originally sacred means something that's kind of taken out of use for mere humans and kind of reserved for the gods, but it's kind of really confusing with the church organ because it's this utilitarian like part of an organ, so it definitely had this use of creating this environment, and then you're taking that part and making that sort of more useful. But so I'm just sort of I'm interested to hear more about this sort of, and also there's the conundrum of sort of thinking of beauty as this sort of inherently sacred thing, but you're kind of taking it out of this one use of beauty and like putting it to use, I think, in another beautiful way. But there's a lot of, I was just, could you help me out with that?
Yes, I think it. I just really what I wanted to do is I wanted um, to like cut the organ up and like also when I'm working with it. The bigger instrument that I have, I built a bellows for it. It works so much differently than the organ in the church, and I think what I want to achieve is just this intimacy that's not available to me in a church when I just feel like when I'm in the church and I'm listening to this big organ, it's really just a huge overpowering thing, and I want something small that will just talk sweetly to my ears, and like yeah, I was always searching for that because I was scared of as I said, I was crying. I was probably just scared because it was too loud, and I was so I just yeah, I just wanted something that will be very intimate and for me only. Yeah.
Hi, I guess I'm interested because it seems like both of you have reinterpreted a medium that you maybe grew up playing as well. And I'm wondering, instead of just taking that specific type of music and reinterpreting it, but using the same technique, why did you go the step further and kind of change the way you were playing the instrument?
I can go. Yeah, well, I mean, I think like, I guess like a big part of that for me personally is playing an amplified cello. I think like having like the ability to amplify like these very small sounds that you wouldn't otherwise be able to hear on an acoustic cello is like important for my work. And so I think like, yeah, I guess just like, I think like now that I have this when I go to play on an acoustic cello, just the fact that the sound is much quieter, it feels like very limiting for me, and so like just like in terms of volume, I feel like I'm able to do like much more, like even not even considering the effects. It feels like pretty liberating in comparison to my experience playing it like when I was growing up.
For me, it's just I actually have my first album was recorded on a church organ, and it's the bigger organ that I played at where I just couldn't process them because of the reverb, and it's so just in this space you cannot really process it that much. The reverb is always there, and when I started working with individual pipes, I had to think more about the intimacy that I spoke about before. That I was on work while I was working with my second album. I was imagining those like spaces that doesn't exist where I can put those pipes in like a on a different planet. I don't know, like I can just do anything, and it's so freeing because it's not in this space anymore. That's really a part of the instrument. Now it's now I can work with it however I want. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a question right here.
Hi, I have a question for Miłosz. I was wondering if you could speak more about your process of queering your sound and what that means to you throughout the process and in performance, and what it means to deliver that to an audience.
Thank you very much. For me, it's about creating this space for me and for the audience, this intimate space. I use a lot of intimate words, but yeah, it's just for example, when I perform, I try to think about processing the sound in a way that will feel. That's why I also want to process it to appear less sacral, to appear more for everyone to appreciate, to appear, I always have this, when I perform, I always have this huge emotions, and after I perform, also today, I thought, because I'm performing on the individual pipes, I thought it will not happen, but I'm so tired after all of it. It's just so tiring, because I think about, it's really, it makes me so tired, and yeah. Yes, but I want to create this space of love and like safe space for everyone. Like it doesn't matter where it will happen. I will do everything just to process it so it isn't sacral anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious for both of you. However much you want to answer this, you can also gatekeep gear if you want to. But I would love to just hear like what your current setup is and like signal flow and like maybe how you got to this point and why. Do you change it up? Is there a current drawback that you're facing with it? I don't know, whatever you feel like saying about your gear and setup.
I can go. Yeah, I love delays. So my rig is like basically just like a series of delay pedals, and the one thing that I'd say like is like really, really important for me is absolutely no reverb. I think like just having like the sound as dry as possible to like create the space for like these really crunchy sounds, really textural sounds is important for me. Yeah, and if you want, you can look at my pedals.
Yes, for me it's I use Soma Cosmos. It's a multifunctional device that has a reverb, delay. You can do granulation with it. Yeah, lots of funny stuff. But I also have those 3 sets that it really depends on the place I play in, and if I'm able to ask my partner's mother to help me drive the instrument with me, the bigger one. So yeah, and I also have a smaller one, bigger than this one, but with valves, and it depends on the space, because I use the air pump, and it has to be in another room because it's quite loud. And sometimes I go with this one. This is more like I work with the material of the pipes a lot more, and like with the tuning, and of course it's more random than with the other sets. The bigger one is I can tune the pipes however I want, and then I can retune them during the performance. And with the one with the valves, the tuning is also like it depends on the amount of air, and you cannot really tune it that well, only by ear during the performance, so it's a bit different. So yeah, thank you.
Maybe I have one further question. Traditions are often also tied to collective practice and playing with people or rituals or recalling memory or, yeah. And I wondered, I mean, Miłosz, certainly a lot of people have been helping you with moving the pipes along in the first place. I wonder if either of you would maybe comment on that, if you sometimes do play with people with this aspect of resynthesizing the traditional in mind, and yeah, what that means for you.
Actually, I prefer to play solo. I think it's just more like from a compositional perspective, but I do love, I think it's like very important to me to have like like a community of musicians around me that are playing like from different genres. But yeah, I guess like, I think it's more of a personal thing for me.
I like to play solo also, I think more, but sometimes I arrange this like communal pipe breathing exercises with my friends where I invite them to my apartment, and I give each of them organ pipe, and then we tune them and we play for for some hours. Yeah, and sometimes I also, with the bigger instrument, it has these bellows that are really hard. You have to like push the air into it all the time. And once I remember when I recorded my album, I asked my friend, because in those older churches there was this person, I don't know what it's called in English, but in Polish it's kalikant. It's a person that the organist ring the bell, and the person came and was pumping the air into the bellows. So I asked my friend to be that person because I couldn't record one of the tracks myself. So he was just standing by and like pumping the air for me, and I was playing. So it was fun. For me, I don't know if it was fun for him. He was very tired after, but yeah.
Great. Well, I think if we have no further questions, we'll take about a 30-minute break. There's some more coffee and tea in the back. And yeah, we'll come back for part 2. Thanks a lot, Miłosz and Dorothy.